What's up, StarCraft fans? Welcome back to WCS Spring. I am Maynard, and with me is Demumu, aka DeMuslim, to all of you guys out there. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great, Maynard, and I'm super looking forward to this match. I mean, HeRoMaRinE against DnS, this feels like a clash that always seems to happen. Like, DnS has such a good run, but then it gets to the knockoff stage, like the real playoff bracket kind of situation, and he always runs into Big Gabe, and Big Gabe is a monster, man. Like, he truly is.
And if history is anything to go by, every time this DnS gets this far, when he meets Big Gabe in the tournament, that's where his tournament ends.
I mean, like, we were talking before, me and Big Gabe, or HeRoMaRinE even, I'll call him HeRoMaRinE from now on. We were talking before, and he was like, kind of giggling, and I was like, what? And he's like, if this all goes to plan, I get to play DnS again. And then he kept on giggling. I was like, oh my gosh, you little sadist. But DnS has been looking pretty good this tournament, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, DnS he was on the rise, I feel, especially from like a lot of his online performances. He was definitely on the rise as one of the best Protosses in Europe, along with Drogo and along with Showtime. I feel like a couple years ago now, and then 2018, similar to Showtime, quite quiet for DnS. You know, a lot of more eyes were on Showtime, of course, because he's a much bigger name. And then this year, feels like a few of these French players, like Drogo and DnS, are looking better than ever. They're actually looking very impressive.
Yeah, definitely. And DnS is a guy that did spend some time in Korea as well. Like, not a lot of people talk about that, but you can have these quiet stretches where you do disappear in Korea for a while, and sometimes it takes a while for that skill to build up. Anyhow, spawning in the top left as our Red Terran, playing for Team Mousesports, it is HeRoMaRinE.
And in the bottom right here, the blue Protoss hailing from France. This is young Mr. DnS.
Oh, you nailed it with the crowd there. And a beautiful crowd it is too, actually. It's very filled up in this arena.
I always want to, when the crowd is good, just as someone that gets, like, I feed off the energy of the crowd, I really get excited by just lots of bums on seats at StarCraft events. You feel a lot of the energy in the air. The magic is real. It soaks into your pores as a bit of a hype machine myself. So I always want to talk about how great the crowd is.
When I think about hype and Maynard and like being like bouncing off people, I just think about you and your metalhead days, like just screaming in front of a crowd and having the whale of a time.
There's photos out there somewhere. Maynard with his guy liner and his black guitar thrashing the hair around.
So here we have DnS just going for the normal pro block against the natural. Now, he did get away with quite a bit of blocking there, but within regards to minerals, HeRoMaRinE didn't actually scale too high, and he only used one SCV to actually get rid of that probe, so that was already decent. Normally you need to use two. He also opted for an SCV scout as well, which is a little bit unorthodox, but when you go into a best-of-5 series against a guy that you've beat continuously through the ages, it's nice that he's taken that extra precaution just to make sure that nothing cheeky is going on from his opponent.
Yeah, he's showing respect to DnS here and making sure that he's staying honest as well. DnS, I mean, a lot of Protosses have been doing this with these maps that have that Reaper ledge, just walling it off to make sure that if Big Gabe wants to get into the main base and he wants to get deeper than just that wall in there, he'll need to use the natural, basically, or run up the ramp. And this Reaper's just looking for proxies. Big Gabe playing very carefully here to start things off with.
One thing I really want to hone in on with Big Gabe's build here, he went for the reactor before the factory. That is very indicative of I'm going to get out a lot of Marines, and having a delayed factory, that's a pretty big deal. So we could see something a little unusual from HeRoMaRinE this game. We could also see a Raven build from him. This is a fairly standard build going into the Raven, but anything else? But given that he's going to have two Marines out and a Reaper, and this is some nice micro against that Adept, by the way, just staying out of range, getting the shot off, and now that Adept can't really get done what it wants to get done.
Yeah, I wanted to shade a little bit further there, have a look at what HeRoMaRinE has, maybe even damage the SCVs. At the best case scenario, picking off the SCV that's making the natural, but with this reactive Marine opening, it means there's just way too many units for him to commit here. And with the Widowmine's also coming up and the Starport, this looks like a Widowmine drop follow-up here for Gabe. As, you know, you have a good ball of Marines, so your natural's quite safe. You don't really need a bunker because there's enough Marines to go toe-to-toe with a couple gateway units.
So far, Big Gabe doesn't know what tech he's against. Now, that's probably what this Reaper's designed to do, to go get out information, but DnS, he's done a very good job. He's walled off the high ground, and he's obviously got enough units here to repel that Reaper. So right now, HeRoMaRinE is very much in the dark, so whether these are going to be Widowmines used for dropping or just defensive purposes, because right now there are a lot of threats that could be coming at him. And yes, it will be used for a medevac by the looks of it. So that could be either Marine drop, Widowmine drop, we'll get to see from him very soon. But that is already a decent number of Marines on the field.
It certainly is. And he's moving up to the top of the high ground there. So just in case a Stalker or an Adept gets a little bit too high up, lots of free shots. DnS is too good to make that happen. And ooh, a very quick robotics bay here from DnS, just 50-odd supply, and down it goes there in the back of the natural mineral line.
This is also one thing that we have to take into account. These players play a lot against each other on the ladder. they might know things about each other. Oh, look at that. So he spotted it with the Reaper initially, then went and got it with the Marines. That also is great information that he knows a robotics bay is in, or rather a robotics facility is in play. Now, given that DNS is totally in the blind, what does he do? Does he get more observers, which he is right now? He's delaying that third a little bit here, but does get it down at a very early moment here. Gets the probe though, that's decent.
Yeah, getting the probe, it does get to drop the third before the probe dies at least. WcrMaRiNE's heading towards a natural, like you mentioned. DNS quite blind to this play here, so he's going to need some pretty good minimap awareness because there was a lot of dead air for that medevac, and it looks like he has seen it. Probe pool getting done just in time and branching off a couple probes. Oh, does lose 3 in the end there, and Gabe does save those WcrMaRiNEs as well, so that's actually very nice for HeRoMaRiNE.
This is super nice for HeRoMaRiNE. Not only did he deal damage there, like that was a little bit of economic damage by pulling off in the first place, denied mining, getting the probe kills, but he also got to see that robotics bay. And he's going for a Raven, by the way, also. So he's getting the counter for Colossus already. Right now, if you were to look at this game, you'd be like, this is going right for Gabe in absolutely every way possible.
And with the Raven, that means doesn't really need to scan anymore to pick off these observers. He already has 2 of them. Third one getting a little deep here as that Raven pops out. He's going to be very, very careful. And DNS getting a little deeper there.
Ah, that observer speed buff, though, it did weasel out of there. The thing for Gabe that he has to kind of watch out for, this army looks really scary right now, but Stim has only just started. The +1 weapons has only just started. This was a lot about getting out a lot of Marines very, very quickly and getting out like a decent army, but it has no upgrades to it. So I don't think Gabe can really run across the map right now, which, considering his opponent took a really fast third base, he kind of wants to be able to do, honestly.
Certainly. Good control from DNS, by the way, keeping that observer out of harm's way for the most part. HeRoMaRiNE definitely putting a lot of attention into trying to pick it off. Oh, not looking at it here, though. Down it goes. So third observer picked off here shortly. It's actually not just microing it out of there. Oh, he's watching him. WcrMaRiNE dropped there in the mains. Just missed that. But looks like not too much damage. And potentially have lost the medevac as well, as I don't see him returning with that medevac. Yeah, he did lose it.
Yeah, he did lose it. But 6 probes, 3 observers down so far. That's definitely nice for Gabe. Also, every observer that you have to remake, that's 1 less Colossus technically in production. So he's had to make a lot of extra observers that he didn't plan on, I don't believe. And this Raven again.
4th one.
Oh my gosh. This is stacking up now. This is getting really bad. One advantage that DNS does have, HeRoMaRiNE's actually gone for a reasonably late third. It's also not on location, so it's the safest third you can pretty much go. But on this map, if he can get into a position and fight with these tanks properly, but he doesn't have Stim yet. He doesn't have anything yet, Maynard.
Oh, DNS meeting him in the middle of the map here. Good play for the French Protoss. Shaves off a few bio units for free as well. And that kind of takes a little bit more, teeth out of the bite here of this force of HeRoMaRiNE. He does still want to commit with Stim and +1 attack. His army keeps moving forward, but it feels so risky.
This feels like he wants to distract with this giant army while taking out his innards with that little drop, and that's exactly what he's going for. But very nice quick reactions by DNS. But that is an Artosis pylon if I've ever seen one, and he does react appropriately, tries to hunt down that medevac. But now the main army of HeRoMaRiNE, this is taking up a really nice position here, and he's pouncing.
Nice tank position here. Interference matrices on both of those Colossi. The bio is spinning on forward. The Chargelot's keeping them at bay, though. They're not be able to get to the soft underbelly of the Protoss. A drop in the back of the natural, but it is getting dealt with here by DNS slowly but surely. Chargelot's still a bit of a problem. A lot of Marauders in this unit comp. Comes some more Marines here from the left. Lots of tanks for HeRoMaRiNE. This is still a precarious situation for both players.
Absolutely. 3 Colossus are now out for DNS in this region, though. And HeRoMaRiNE's kind of caught moving here with the siege tanks. 1 interference matrix goes down, but that's a lot of damage being done from DNS.
And once the Chargelots get on top of the tanks, they are in trouble. You might have to unseat and try to lift them up. No, they're just sitting there, and they are going to go down. And that's going to be a good haul for DNS. The army supply of HeRoMaRiNE got really reset. He's going for a big counter drop, so he wants to really keep on the pressure while this third gets dropped. I guess he just really doesn't want DNS to go across the map.
Okay, we have to look for things that are going well for both players here. So the probe count and the worker count is pretty even, but HeRoMaRiNE this whole time hasn't been mining from that third. Was it too safe by him? He is going to try and buy time with a drop, because he's very scared of the army by DNS, but DNS making the right move here, just moving out straight across the map.
And this is going to be so hard to stop. Yes, he has a high ground tank, but there are so many units here for the Protoss, and DNS is being careful, and he has a War Prism. Dropping the main base here for HeRoMaRiNE. There's that pylon you were talking about earlier. The main base, it looks like he might be able to slow this down with his Chargelot's. He is still losing probes, but the big question is, can HeRoMaRiNE stop this Protoss force Force fields denying the SCVs from getting to safety in the main base. Liberators are getting up to try and cover that ramp, but so many SCVs died. Yes, probe damage happening on the southern map, but 25 SCVs died in a short second or two there, thanks to the Colossi.
Luckily, recall's pretty good, and DnS is back on his side of the map now. Re-establishes those pylons so he can start producing again. Luckily, his minerals and gas didn't stack too highly up, but he was mining from 2 of his bases very, very nicely during that whole thing, whereas Big Gabe, mate, his economy has been absolutely thrashed here.
Yeah. Well, he's starting to get to the Liberator phase of the game, and honestly, there's not a whole lot that deals with Liberators for DnS at the moment. He doesn't have Blink Stalkers, or really that many Stalkers to speak of, but the ground army is still going to be so, so very scary, and Liberators, if they don't have, I guess, kind of like a bio army or a tank army underneath them, Liberators really are quite flimsy and easy to flank and pick off with Stalkers, so it's not really, you know, Gabe needs time. HeRoMaRinE needs time to establish that third saturator and get a good composition up again.
He does need time, but time is against him, Maynard. It is 61 probes against 35 SCVs. Right now, HeRoMaRiNE's the one that needs to make the moves. He's the one that needs to make things happen, and DnS knows that. So right now, HeRoMaRiNE has to make something happen, and it's very difficult when opponent's waiting for you. And now, DnS knows where he has to position. This is a very scary army, though. If he does get a siege up here, which he is starting to do, and DnS was a bit slow to the punch here, has to keep that Templar Archives alive for a few more seconds here. Now he has Storm. This army just got way, way, way better.
Certainly did. My Templar got warped in earlier, so they do have enough juice to be able to drop some bad weather on this Terran army. He is starting to sort of leapfrog those Liberators forward. DnS coming in for a big charge there with the Stalkers as well, blinking. Target firing down these Liberators as best as he can. Nice Storm down the bio on the back line as well. The tanks in range of some of these Protoss units. The Immortals actually picking them up as well. And it looked a little messy there. DnS is still sort of tiptoeing with his Liberator siege, but he took a lot of the backbone of this army out.
That went terribly for DnS, honestly. Like, that should have gone way better, but he engaged it all from one angle there. That was into 4 Liberators, siege tanks, interference matrix on both the Colossus. Now he's getting a nice little bit of a wraparound here, and this gets a little bit better for him, but still, the Colossus being shot down here by the Marauders.
Yeah, the Marauders do really well against Colossi there if there's not a charge lot army in front of them. Stalkers managing to get around those sort of Liberators there, picking them up without getting shot back. Marauder reinforcement, though, getting a lot of these Stalkers down as DnS bungled this.
I'm not sure. He's still ahead a lot in economy. Each unit lost for Marine Law, or HeRoMaRinE even, means so much more for him. Now, DnS, he has to start establishing those high Templars again, and yes, that's exactly what he starts doing. Storm is a big deal, but running into those Liberator zones, it's problematic every time. But Warp Prism's here, ready to pounce when needs be. He's also getting better upgrades. And HeRoMaRinE, he didn't really super re-establish his economy, so he's still in a lot of trouble. And look at that, that's a gnarly spot to have a Warp Prism.
Yeah, and he's going to get a 1 Zealot in for now, and honestly, just 1 Zealot is pretty annoying here for HeRoMaRinE. His focus is at that third base, his army's there, out of position. And it's very inexpensive for DnS to just throw out 1 Zealot, just pick it up in the Warp Prism and get on out of there.
And also, DnS is establishing a 4th base behind all this. It doesn't get any better for HeRoMaRinE. Even though that fight went as good as it possibly could have done for him, DnS, he's doing a lot of stuff right, and GG right like that.
HeRoMaRinE was just processing it all together and figured out that it wasn't a doable game for him in the end.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's 2 ways to look at this. You can be like, why did you leave? Why didn't you keep on fighting? But you can also be like, this is the first game of a 5-game series. Not wearing yourself out, not giving your opponent the satisfaction of a game going well for him from that point on, and just saying, okay, yeah, I messed up there. Things didn't go super well for me, and just getting on with the next game. I respect that from HeRoMaRinE.
Well, he wanted DnS. He has DnS. And it looks like this isn't going to be a whitewash here for HeRoMaRinE if he ends up winning the series. At the moment, it is DnS up 1-0 in the series off the back of a really good defense. Bit of a sloppy fight at his third Nexus, but really every advantage in the end when the dust settled. HeRoMaRinE was absolutely in a very terrible spot in that game, and like you said, I like that HeRoMaRinE is actually just going to be like, you know what, forget this game, I want a new one. I want to start again with my 12 workers on my command center and make less mistakes.
This is a marathon, it isn't a sprint when it comes to best of 5, and HeRoMaRinE looking at that game too, I actually think he did a lot of things really well. The Widowmine drops initially did damage. His follow-up push was actually pretty damn smart. The Raven was good against the Colossus. It was just the very first fight didn't really go his way that well. The later fight went really darn well when he was like 30 supply behind and DnS just charged him. And that's kind of like he can keep a mental note of that. my opponent didn't make the right move when I got to this army in this stage of the game. And that's something that he can use later on in the series. Instead of trying to utilize the very early attack, try and force DnS into a stage of the game where his army control and his decision-making wasn't necessarily the best thing.
It'd be interesting to see what HeRoMaRinE does coming up here. He's very critical of people that just do builds like what they do on ladder when they come to tournaments. He's definitely a guy that likes to shake things up when he comes to the big matches.
And you know the funniest thing about that too? Like, HeRoMaRinE is the guy that will play exactly like he does on ladder
yes,
in tournaments.
That is true. It is a little hypocritical, but as we see that... Ooh.
I say that, and then HeRoMaRinE is here to bless us all with something very, very different. And speaking of the man himself, spawning in the top left as our Red Terran, it is HeRoMaRinE.
There's these proxy barracks. And the bottom right receiving the aggression. That's a bunch of fans. The guy I'm talking about is, of course, France's DnS.
Was that a sign for Bly on fire?
It was, actually.
Was that for, like, literal fires and he's out the tournament?
I think they're basically letting the admins know that Bly is out there in the building somewhere. He's caught fire and he's actually needs some medical attention.
Okay, the fortunate thing for DnS is he did actually scout. Now, this is a much larger map. DnS, upon seeing this and getting into the base here, normally it's very indicative of like, okay, there's only one gas and that's a fairly late gas. Now, that has to be 2 barracks. Very often it can be 2 gases that you see at that point in time. Then you know it's like a 1 barracks thing, and then it's going to be tech options and stuff. But DnS, he's actually opted for a low ground wall in here. Now, this is probably exactly what HeRoMaRinE wanted. This is a map where you can fully wall off, but he is going to scout exactly what he's up against here. Now, this is when the game gets a little bit dicey for both of these, because they both know what the other one's doing. The game, like all the tricks they've unfolded here.
Master started off his game just like this, well, one of his games like this against Skillus, just a Marine proxy, hitting a single gas back at home, then eventually a factory back at home.
The thing about that was, though, Skillus went a high ground gateway, which was exactly what you don't want to play against. So I'm very interested to see what Big Gabe's going to do against this, but I'm also interested in DNS's response. I love that he's getting out a Stalker. That's going to be chrono boosted immediately. He's also got a shield battery on the way, because this Marine count, it stacks up very quickly. Once the Stalker does come out, though, these Marines become a lot less useful.
Unless they have a bunker to hide in.
Oh, is he going to pop out on the wrong side? He's going to stay behind here? Okay. I'm not sure I agree with this. Although, I guess he is going to hit the bunker.
Yeah, he's in range of the bunker. Could get the SCV when it's on the right-hand side as well. And he's going to target fire it. Down that goes.
Oh, that is so low as well. Is there any more SCVs on the way, or is this it?
He has one more. Oh, no, there's a Marine coming in from the barracks there. So it doesn't look like this bunker's going to finish.
The thing is, I feel like these Marines can just get in a position where they outrange the Stalkers and just shoot the buildings.
Yeah, they certainly can.
So that's why I was kind of curious as to why he popped out on the wrong side here. Now, HeRoMaRinE has to be a little bit careful, but losing a gateway and being under this kind of pressure. Oh, and now he's even having to kill his own pylon? Yeah, I think DnS made a bit of a blunder here.
Certainly starting to look like it. More SCVs coming in for Gabe, and he wants to go for more bunkers.
And the thing is, you can't shoot that bunker now. Like, that's going to get up. You're
That's out of range, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to start losing your Cyber Core, and I don't actually want Big Gabe to kill the gateway straight away, because then the Stalkers can come out. And that's exactly what he does, and he switches it up. So he knows the threat, he knows the mistake his opponent's made, and he's taking total advantage of him for doing it. Now, this isn't game over at this point in time, by no means, but this is a lot of damage being done.
Shield battery juicing up that Cyber Core to give him a little bit more time, but DnS just doesn't have the numbers.
Absolutely not, and right now he's got no production either to work with. His first gateway is being rebuilt right now, but is gateway going to be stopped? Wow, okay. So this is a weird build by HeRoMaRinE, but it's paying off so much, and this was just one small error in judgment from DnS, but HeRoMaRinE is such a good player that he's taken advantage of him. This is so much infrastructure he's had to make with shield batteries that you don't want that to be there right now.
And keep in mind, guys, that yes, all of our attention is on this part of the map, but HeRoMaRinE hasn't just been making Marines and rallying them across the map. He's been making Cyclones, got a Starport on the way, a natural command center in his main base. This is actually a lovely follow-up for him here as these barracks start to fly home.
Now, one real crucial thing for DnS here is, what is my opponent doing? Because I've been so worried about dealing with this. So he goes and scouts immediately for the Proxy 2 racks. And the thing is, Gabe's actually making a third barracks right now too, before his naturals even landed. This usually means you're going to be attacking very soon with something incredibly powerful.
So cancel these out on there. Look like a tech lab, and he's going for the medevac instead.
This is definitely an unusual follow-up by Gabe, though. Very often you find that a Banshee Marine tank follow-up can really seal the deal here, and there isn't a lot really for DnS to sort that out. But DnS, I think he kind of thinks that that is the case as well. Getting a Stargate, that would be good against the Banshees, but that's not what he's against at all. So I feel that HeRoMaRiNE's really pulling out some mind games here in what is actually the best, but doing something a little bit less good, but because his opponent will expect the best out of him. So these are some real mind games going on.
Third gas being taken down here in the natural as Gabe pulls back his defensive forces, sending out just the one medevac with the Widow Mines. And I mean, there's already a bunch of Stalkers out for DnS, but Gabe could do something here with that Cyclone while the Widow Mines are grabbing his attention as well, potentially running in and picking off a Stalker or two. But I guess the shield batteries make things a little bit different.
What's super funny about this game, by the way, is the fact that it was so crazy and hectic and wild at the start, and they've both normalized into fairly regular worker numbers and where you're meant to be at this stage in the game. But make no mistake, HeRoMaRiNE's tech is still far superior to his opponent. Like Phoenix, they're not going to be what you want against this. And
oh, that's a late pull, I think. Oh, okay. Doesn't actually target fire that cluster there. It doesn't manage to get it in time. So just 2 probes. All right for DnS so far.
Tech is revealed, though. Like, this is your opponent go for a Phoenix opening, which, you know, that can be either really good for you or really bad. And the fact that he's going full-blown bio here against Phoenix and very late Colossus, I feel there's a timing here that he could really make work against DnS.
Yeah, certainly could. It's 2 bases, like tons of production on 2 bases, maybe getting a couple more starport units out. Actually, I would love to see Banshees, which are, I mean, there is a starport, like you mentioned, so it wouldn't be as powerful.
The thing is, if you go Banshees against like the Phoenix and the Observer, it's really tough, right?
Yeah,
like,
it is.
You'd have had to attack very early with like Cyclones and lots of Marine support just to keep those Banshees alive. Whereas right now, he's even going for a third as well here, Maynard. Like, it's turned into a very unusual game because, again, HeRoMaRiNE, he's playing exceptionally safe with his third as well. It feels like he is so consistently good, but so consistently safe that if DnS chooses to play a little more wild against him, you can really take advantage of HeRoMaRiNE's safety here.
Certainly can, and this Observer is keeping tabs on that bio army. HeRoMaRiNE's historically in this first game at least is very, very good at picking off those Observers. Phoenix is looking to pick off something, and they just sort of decide the better part of Valor here, trying to get a medevac that's probable, maybe a Marine or 2, but don't get anything in the end.
I did notice, by the way, production-wise, HeRoMaRiNE is getting a little bit supply blocked very occasionally here, so that has definitely swamped his production capabilities a little bit, given that supply blocks are so harsh, but he will have +1 very soon, and given that I don't think a Forge is even on the field yet for DnS, so getting that upgrade lead.
Yeah. It was tough for DnS to afford that Forge, considering the amount of minerals he was spending down in that natural with all that pressure happening. Retaking the Cyber Core, shield batteries, third Nexus being dropped, all that sort of stuff, so it's just getting dropped now. And Colossi are hitting the field. Once again, DnS, pretty quick robotics bay here in the second game.
The thing is, DnS survived. Like, he went for Phoenix, which they are better in longer games, or they're better for absolutely shutting down a 2-base if you go for a later third. But he survived. He's got what he wanted done. A Ghost Academy on the way with Vikings. What is this? Heart of the Swarm all over again? This is a very old-school style game.
Yeah. Vikings, obviously, going to be very, very nice against Colossi. Can also be used for harassment. The Ghosts, just great against Protoss in general. EMPs get rid of those shields, making things a lot easier for this buyer to do a lot more damage. It feels like doing that is actually better than getting the anti-armor missile from a Raven to drop that on the army of the Protoss.
Yeah,
it's smaller splash damage, but it just feels like it does so much more against the army.
The thing is also, if you land it on those Phoenix, because they clump up very often, you reduce their ability to even lift up, but also all the shields gone, so they just become these little ticklers of your medevacs, which you also, given that they lose all their shields, they're very easy to pick off.
Armory also coming down for HeRoMaRiNE here. Get the +2 attack, +2 upgrades rather, and armor. Picking off the Marine there is DnS. Does Phoenix is actually pay for it. Jeez, it's unfortunately lost that there. Going in a blink, knows that he's going to be up against some air units eventually from HeRoMaRiNE. Not too sure on the Viking count yet. I don't think HeRoMaRiNE's shown them off just yet to DnS.
One very deceiving thing here is the worker counts that look fairly even, but the Terran just took a slight lead there. So HeRoMaRiNE's been playing very greedy on his economy, whereas DnS, because he took that risk of taking that much earlier third trying to get back into the game, he also had to play a little bit safer here. So he didn't know when this attack was coming from HeRoMaRiNE, which that did kind of stump his pro production quite a bit. Now you see he's got multiple gateways on the way, a second Forge and stuff, but is it too late? Did HeRoMaRiNE scare him too much? Because this is also Ghost being added to mix. This is a valuable army from HeRoMaRiNE.
Both players seem very, very afraid to commit to anything really super bold here. HeRoMaRiNE started off very, very bold, but it feels like the early game's kind of been undone, like it doesn't really matter anymore because they're getting to the mid-game here where both players have got 60-odd and almost 70 workers each and are just heading into their Tier 2 armies and Tier 3 armies.
One massive thing, though, is the upgrade. So HeRoMaRiNE's currently at 1-1. You have +1 finishing for DnS, but still, the armor upgrades are so valuable when it comes down to this. It is 3 Colossus alive, and it is 3 shield batteries. So he has multiple shield batteries at multiple bases here. It's very hard to engage against this. I mean, EMPs for those shield batteries could also be useful at some point in time, but HeRoMaRinE just very happy. He sees the army. He sees that there's no fourth, by the way. So if you are on equal bases with a Protoss, it tends to be better for the Terran. Also, he scanned the upgrades, so he knows, like, actually, I'm in pretty good shape. Like, I'm going to make it so you have to make the moves, not me moving into you. Like, I'm ahead here.
I like this from DnS, though, to try and deal with the Ghosts. He's going to start throwing in Disruptors. That is one of the best units the Protoss can get against the Ghosts. They can't stim. They have to basically be lifted up into the medevacs to be able to be saved against something like that. Very hard to split against Disruptor shots, but of course, Disruptors are a bit of an all-or-nothing army. Oh, there we go. Nice EMP there on those Stalkers, making them very, very squishy to this bio with their 1-1 upgrades.
Actually, that single EMP just drained all the energy from most of those. And those are some sick EMPs, by the way. Really, really owning most of that army. And now the
Vikings.
Oh, gosh.
Almost one-shotting a Colossus there. They're going in again. Another EMP there from HeRoMaRinE. In come the Disruptors. Can DnS get a nice connection with the Purification Novas? They come forward. They get nothing. Fully whiffs here. The Vikings get rid of that last Colossus. And can this army of the Protoss actually hold on? These Vikings are probably going to land here and join the fight with the Bio and the Cyclone.
And right now, all the AoE is gone. I say that, but the Disruptor gets a nice, juicy shot here. But there's too much HeRoMaRinE. He's just blasting on through. That Immortal survives with 1 health. No, it doesn't. HeRoMaRinE snipes it down. Nice micro by him.
Looks like he's starting to get a little bit low on hit points here on this bio. Yes, the medevacs are getting them a little bit more HP back, but the Protoss is starting to hold on and starting to stabilize here against HeRoMaRinE. He is rallying more units through the middle of the map, losing medevacs to these Stalkers, though.
Make no mistake, though, HeRoMaRiNE's ready for the next stage of the game. We've got Ghosts, we've got 4 Liberators at a time. He's also got superior upgrades again. 2-to-1 has finished. He's even getting plus air upgrades. 4 is Liberators and nice EMPs. Again, these shield batteries, they're just not enough energy to heal everything. Right now, he's trying to bait out those Disruptor shots as best he can.
Yeah, certainly, and also keeping those Ghosts out of the battle. Oh, okay. Novas himself a little bit there. So hard to make charge lots of Disruptors work well in tandem. They seem to be anti-units against each other here. The charge lots come on forward. They die as quickly as they appear here to this bio, which now has plus to attack, by the way. Another whiff Nova there from DnS. And he's not getting the connections he needs. He does have another Colossus out here.
The thing is, Gabe is also making a 4th CC behind this, plus 3 weapons on the way too for his bio. He's actually done all of this off 1 engineering bay 2, I believe, so his tech is kind of out of control at this point. And with the Liberators too, that makes the Disruptors' life so hard. These Stalkers have a huge job to do because they are the only things right now, besides the Phoenix, that can really deal. Oh, getting the Disruptor before the Nova.
Oh, wow, again there. HeRoMaRinE getting rid of these Novas before they become a problem. The Liberators leapfrogging forward once again. The Phoenix is coming in, but there's only a couple of them here. The Bio just stands and fights. And he just does so much damage to DnS's army every time DnS commits.
HeRoMaRinE, cool, calm, and calculated there. The fact that he went for those Disruptors as the Novas were still about to blow up his entire army, and his economy's looking great behind this. He's still got more workers than the Protoss. This Colossus just walked across the whole front of that army too. The Liberators just strangling DnS at this point in time.
Yeah, he's got a chokehold with DnS here. Another Nova comes forward, but whiffed again. Good splits from HeRoMaRinE. And it just looks like the writing's on the wall here. Just a matter of time, warping in more Stalkers. These Marauders, though, plus to attack with +3 on the way. And DnS just doesn't have the numbers anymore. GG! HeRoMaRinE ties up the series 1 apiece.
That might be one of the best games of the day so far, Maynard. HeRoMaRinE started with something very unusual there. He is the consistent Terran, the by-the-book Terran. He really is great across the board. And he throws out a proxy 2-racks, hoping for his opponent to be expanding on the low ground. That shows that not only does he know his opponent, but he studied him really, really well. And he could like basically guarantee that he was going to do that against him. So this shows that HeRoMaRinE has gone into this series very much prepared.
He certainly has, boarding out a strategy that you generally wouldn't see him do when he stream. He's generally a very macro-focused Terran that has a build that he prefers per matchup, that he really likes to grind. You know, he plays a ton of games. And that's just something that he seemed to prepare specifically for this tournament.
Did you see DnS's like not bad face kind of thing? That's exactly what I felt like that was. Like, oh, you know, proxy T-Rex against me. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do, eh? So now DnS might be thinking like, wow, I need to maybe mix up my builds a little bit against this guy, because so far that's 2 games in a row where he's opted for Colossus. You know, he's done the very standard kind of abusey Protoss kind of things, and this is the 2nd game in the series, and HeRoMaRinE definitely bounced back. Like, he did everything right that he needed to be. I even feel he could have been even more greedy with the way that he took his 3rd and stuff after that opening.
You think make it on location?
On location, like he was definitely safe. He was, you you know, I think he's playing almost too safe against DnS, but that can also be like a mental thing, right? Like, maybe he really does know, look, as long as I don't make any glaring mistakes and I don't take any shortcuts against this guy, I'm going to win. I'm Big Gabe.
I'm sure that's exactly what he's thinking.
You know, if I was Big Gabe, that's what I'd be thinking all the time.
Yeah, I mean, HeRoMaRinE historically just does not go down to DnS when it gets to this portion on the stage and these big WCS stops. And if DnS does have a ace up his sleeve, or at least a couple up his sleeve, now's the time. This is every single best of 5 today is an elimination match. No player has a second life anymore for the next couple of days here in this tournament.
I did know DnS is a guy that was using a lot of proxy gate stuff, where you go for the 2 gateway style against Terrans, but maybe he feels, because HeRoMaRinE did opt for an SCV scout the first game too. So the fact that he's shown that, hey, I respect you, but I'm not scared of you, I will sacrifice my economy just to get an idea of what you're doing. Like, he really has been mixing it up. But anyway, to introduce our top left player playing for Cascade Gaming, it is DnS.
And in the bottom right, shout out to the Pylon Show, the greatest show on the internet, apart from WCS, of course. In the bottom right here, still being represented by Mouse Esports, the German Terran in the red. This is young HeRoMaRinE. Actually amazes me how young Gabe is, considering like how long he's been playing this game for. Feels like he's been playing StarCraft since he was in diapers.
I mean, he still probably is in diapers. No.
I think a lot of Terrans are wearing diapers after some of these Protoss games, but
no, but you're right. He is a name that's been around for a long time, you know. And I remember when he was like a real youngster. I still look at him as a real youngster, but, you know, he's in his early 20s now. And like, he is one of the real solid Terrans out there. Like, you think of the greats outside of Korea. You know, the Euthermals get very frequently mentioned. The specials get mentioned. I remember Marine Lord back in his heyday was often mentioned as one of the best. But HeRoMaRinE, he is so darn consistent. Like, he will show up at pretty much every tournament, making like top 8s, top 4s. And there's a reason for it. He's just very solid all around.
And of course, it's the Meisterschaft champion of yesteryear.
So here, this is what you normally see. You usually see like the 2 SCVs deal with that probe. Now, as soon as he hit 400 minerals, the probe was already gone. So that was very nicely timed by him. Now, DnS, he didn't offer any low ground expo stuff. This is a map where proxies are a bit more, you know, they're a bit more deadly because there's so many ways to get into your main base. There's no wall you can randomly make to kind of block out that Reaper high jump path. So I like the fact that he's not done anything totally crazy or loco, but both these players respecting one another, scouting around the map, just making sure that there are no shenanigans going down early on.
This probe's sort of waiting its time for the Reaper to go across the map and going for a follow-up scout. That's HeRoMaRinE's been being so careful with these Reapers. He's checking every single nook and cranny for a proxy here. You
know, I wonder if DnS actually studied the scouting patterns of HeRoMaRinE to find out when exactly he could move in with that probe. Because you might be like, oh, this isn't much information, right? It's actually quite a bit. With this probe moving in now, he knows it was a gas first. There wasn't the Marine follow-up. He sees the reactor, sees the factory. That gives away quite a bit of information.
And we're seeing a very similar startup here for Gabe in Game 3 as Game 1. So just going for reacted barracks off a Reaper. He didn't go Marine first, so just Reaper into reacted Marine, factory going down, Widowmine starport. Looks like a Widowmine drop again, and this Reaper gets interrupted by an Adept there for a bit. Does he want to come home to deal with it, to shoot, to sort of zap that lady back a little bit? But
at this point, you can kind of like... he goes for a very early reactor. Like, it's a reactor right after the Reaper, so he gets out enough Marines, and he was kind of baiting that on top of the Widowmine there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, given that this map is so easy to scout, it's a map that you might as well abuse that strength, where you can absolutely get to scout everything from your opponent. So here, the Robo, he sees an extra gateway. That's good info.
It is good info, and the Stalker actually missed its chance to get a few zaps on that Reaper there. So we do have DnS is going 3-gate Robo. Very, very standard, regular, safe opening here for DnS. And HeRoMaRinE is going medevac first again, so going to start dropping very, very shortly here.
I wonder if it was one of those situations where he's like, I know that my opponent doesn't deal with Widowmines the greatest. Like, the Stalkers aren't necessarily on the edge of the base as waiting. Oh, this time he actually brings 6 Marines with the drop as well, and he's sending out a Widowmine here across the map. So definitely mixing it up each game is HeRoMaRinE, which is always great when you play a best-of-5 series, keeping your opponent on his toes. By the way, DnS again opting for Colossus. So he has definitely been the player that's been mixing up his builds a lot less. So definitely staying with a tried-and-true kind of way to play, but Is that what you want to do against a guy that's also a tried and true, but he's also mixing it up against me now? I'm not sure.
Well, this time the Widowmine drop's got a bunch of unupgraded Marines in it, and these Marines are actually frighteningly deadly to a unguarded probe line. Widowmine here does get baited out to a probe there, so doesn't get a great connection, but the Marines with the medevac in tandem, they don't need Stim and Combat Shield to be scary to DnS, who only has this one gateway unit.
Why is this doing so much damage?
Yeah, what? Where's the other gateway units?
Where's his army?
There it is.
Okay, so they were at the natural doing something. Was there anything happening at the natural? I'm not even sure, because there was a random Widowmine on the minimap, right? So I think he was dealing with the single Widowmine in the natural or something. But the real damage was definitely done by that drop
yeah,
there.
That's
so
insane amount of damage there.
And HeRoMaRinE following up with this very standard. In fact, he's actually adding tanks at this point in time, which are pretty decent against Colossus, even utilizing that Widowmine to block the third for a little bit of time, if he takes a third, that is, and Protoss usually do, but Big Gabe, he's definitely all over this game right now. Yeah,
definitely an advantage HeRoMaRinE at the moment. Observers of DnS fanning out to try and see where the medevac's moving around. Doesn't want to have another drop that gets that effective again for the Terran, because that'll spell doom for him as he heads towards the mid-game. DnS also supply blocked a little bit here. It's waiting for those pylons to finish up.
Oh, you know, when you look at a work account like this, for a second there, I thought the races were switched. Terran being ahead 5 workers at this point in time, that is tremendously bad for DnS. Another couple of probes dying. Was that at the third base of DnS? I'm not even sure. Yes, so we went to take a third. Oh, I mean, this goes from bad to way worse. Like, every little second that you get further and further behind against a guy that's very, very solid and he's had a very good opening against you, man, that sucks.
He does finally drop that third Nexus, and he does have some catching up to do here. Generally, at this point, the Protoss wants to be up half a dozen probes, and that third Nexus certainly wants to be on the way. So HeRoMaRinE, once again with this Raven opening, looking to try and pick off these observers as they come a little bit too deep into the Terran's infrastructure. And just once again, Stim, Combat Shield, +1 attack, tanks in the early stages of the game. This is a scary push following up here for HeRoMaRinE that he's gearing up for.
I still feel that this, where he's put his third base, is still very strange. Like, he has to float this very far to the third, so
yeah,
even if he does want to make it safe, at least make it in your main so you can float it over there for shortening the distance.
Over here where Indy's showing us.
Or, like, given that he is ahead and he knows he's ahead, given the amount of damage that he dealt, this wasn't a weird build where he had to, like, cut back SCVs or anything. I really feel that that is one thing that Gabe is being a little bit too safe with, but his army's very strong now. These are really big upgrades about to be finished. +1, combat shields, and Stim. And this is a mean, mean army to deal with, especially when you're a pretty wounded Protoss already.
Yeah, he's up at 26 army supply going across the map right now. A bunch of upgrades are about to line up, and he has the Siege Tanks Marauder count and the Raven with a bunch of interference matrices to try and catch these Colossi.
Did he not see him moving out like this?
I don't think he did at all.
Or, I mean, a hallucination just went out, so flying right for the army, so he kind of smelt it a little. He smelt something. These Siege Tanks, though, they're in a really good location here.
Oh, there's the interference matrices on those Colossi. They're starting to take a little bit far forward. Oh, man, HeRoMaRinE's just deep diving on this army. Does he just clean up right here?
It looks like it, Maynard. There is barely anything left. No meat shield. One Colossus left, the captain of his ship, but he is last to be taken out. And HeRoMaRinE slaughtered DnS this game.
Wow. Now that game went a lot more like HeRoMaRinE assumed this series would have looked.
You know, from starting this off, DnS took the first win, and it looked pretty brutal, man. He did a lot of things right, and even though, like Gabe, he got the good information early on, the Widowmine drops went pretty good, DnS recuperated and got back into it. But these last 2 games, this has been HeRoMaRinE just throwing something at DnS that it seems like he has no idea how to deal with it. Or it's that he does have an idea, but HeRoMaRinE's kind of tricking him. That one Widowmine that went into the natural that we actually didn't get to see on screen, that baited so much happening at that natural, and that drop into the main, the way that he went in for it too.
Yeah,
very
the bottom
smart.
of the main base avoid all vision from the Protoss is they usually have a pylon on the edge there or structures on the edge to be able to look for those popular medevac points. If he went around the very, very top edge of the map where most Terrans want to be, DnS would have seen it a lot earlier on the minimap. So HeRoMaRinE really playing very intelligently.
And this is one of the things too, like HeRoMaRinE was definitely playing the map there. That is a map where there are so many ways to get into that main base, especially. Most Protoss look at their natural as being the very vulnerable one, given that the mineral line is more exposed. So you do focus a lot more defense on the natural, but Gabe, knowing that, the master mind that he is, just totally abused the map, played the player doing the right move, except it was the wrong move in this situation, given that that was not Gabe's plan at all.
Well, DnS has got 1 life remaining in this tournament, and we're hoping that he can fight back here. Game 1 was obviously very, very good. What's up, Rainer? Just saw him run through the middle there. We want to see a 5th game because we love our 5-game series. But DnS has got to have his composure shaken after that game.
Yeah, he has to get back into this, because right now this is Gabe just beating him with build orders, and like very simply as well. The Proxy 2 Rex was really cool on the second map on Port Alexander. He kind of knew how he was going to play, and it really felt like HeRoMaRinE knew how he was going to play this time too. Like, make no mistake about it, HeRoMaRinE is in DNS's head right now.
And we are inside the game, in the far right spawn here of Automaton. This, from Mal's Esports, the Red Terran, hailing from Germany. This is HeRoMaRinE.
Oh, I heard your announcement with White Raz right there. That was awesome.
It's a dream come true, mate.
And spawning over in the bottom left, currently 1-2 down in this series, playing for Team Cascade, it is DnS.
And you got the White Raz intro as well.
Man, I love White Raz. Like, the fact that White Raz at this event, casting in the Russian, like, this is amazing.
That's right.
Now, oh, you go, Maynard.
No, it's okay. I was going to make a White Raz joke, but I decided to keep it under the belt. Save it for later.
Okay, so this game, DnS going for an early scout, and yet again, I like that. There's a lot of Protosses that try to play a little bit greedier here, but very often what you find, if they don't have the information, they tend to sacrifice economy in a different kind of way because they feel less safe. So him scouting across the map, there's no reason not to as a Protoss. You just kind of get a better understanding of the game, and if you get to see that the barracks is a little bit later, as in it's a gas first or a barracks first, that can also very much dictate what an opponent is doing against you. So very often if you go barracks first, it isn't in this situation. But that means Raven builds are far more likely, they get out far more Marines, and so you're very likely to be two-base pushed. So seeing a gas build, that means that a lot more options are available, and it's good to get that information as a Protoss player.
Apart from that proxy game, HeRoMaRinE has been going gas first in these games. So the CC on the low ground, all pretty regular fare from both players. Just a Reaper expand, and DnS going Cybercore next on the other side of the map here in Automaton.
Yeah, very, very standard. And the way that DnS has made his structures as well. I like the pylon here. He can start to make a gateway wall. He's already made a gateway cyber wall here. That means the Reaper can't jump up and get super information in the main base, especially can't harass the probe lines. Now, what you often find is Protoss also make their tech structure at that pylon just behind. So you can still, if you manage to jump up just there, you can get that kind of information. But I'm looking forward to see how DnS actually makes his base, because this is a much larger map. Getting into the main base, it's still very easy, but it's such a huge main base that getting in there, as long as you have well-placed pylons, you should have Stalkers prepared in time.
Yeah, it's such a large main base. It's like King's Cove's main wishes it was as big as this one. We got that robotics facility getting dropped here right away for DnS. It's just, like, again, a pretty similar build for DnS.
But HeRoMaRinE again mixing it up. We have Hellions actually in production now. This might be to do with the fact that this is a much larger map. You don't have to run up into a ramp to get into the natural. Like, you can see what you're against. And even if your opponent makes a wall here with 2 gateways and a pylon, very often you can use the Reaper grenade to knock those units out of position. Oh, I love the fact that he's actually utilizing the pylon on the high ground to make that upper gateway. That's kind of cool.
And the Hellions do get shown here to that Adept. So DnS is going to want to finish that wall off in the natural. Manages to save the Adept for now as well, which is always nice. And this Sentry, of course, makes things a little bit tougher for a run by. So DnS seems to have a pretty good read here so far. I like his setup here on the low ground.
The main thing is here, he needs to find out whether it's a proxy star. Like, he needs to know whether it's a star.
Yeah, he doesn't know where the medevac's coming from.
Right. Are these Hellions, they can only deal probe damage in this matchup. They're not going to stand up to Stalkers. So we know what HeRoMaRiNE's plan is, but where is he going to do it? Is it my natural? Is it my main? Where is his starport? Like, he still has a Reaper, which means that you have to be pretty careful about this wall here, which he knows that's a threat because you can bomb the units out the way. So right now, I wouldn't be surprised if these units start splitting up and going to the main, because that is very exposed. And does he see the medevac here? This will be huge.
Mate, just at the end he did there. So the medevac is coming forward, and DnS is going to have to split his defenses up here. He's got all of it culminated here in the natural at the moment. The main is actually looking very empty. If HeRoMaRiNE wanted to go for the drop.
Oh, it's a
bait!
He's faking with the medevac. This is super cool. But the thing is, DnS has walled himself in. So DnS has kind of made the right move here. I'm really surprised that he doesn't have units at his main, but luckily he is moving there in position. This feels like one of those situations where Gabe was doing like a 300 IQ move.
He's doing it again, though. He's dropping into the natural while hitting the main.
And this is already dealing quite a bit of damage. He's getting some really good shots off with these Hellions.
He certainly is. So there's half a dozen probes going down here. And there's the natural as well with a couple of those Hellions and the Reaper from earlier. DnS getting hit at 2 places at once here. HeRoMaRiNE finding a lot of damage. 10 probes A little bit of fancy juggling there with that medevac. DnS needs to gun it down to stop this.
Oh, that's a lot of damage being done. 12 probes. Okay, so HeRoMaRinE behind this is making a lot of the right moves. He's getting a bunker, he's getting tanks, and he's whipping out as many Marines as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls out a second bunker, maybe in the main too, just to be super duper safe. That's been kind of how he's been playing this series, just overly safe. But that'd be the right move here, because right now, DnS, he walled himself in his natural, so to get out of there, he needs to use a warp prism, which is kind of weird. Or did he kill? Actually, he killed it. So already, DnS is making a lot of moves. He is very indecisive.
Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing.
He's rattled.
Here.
He's rattled.
Yeah. It's a sign of a player that just feels like he doesn't really have a grip on the situation at the moment. He's losing a bit of money there, canceling and restarting tech. It looked like he wanted to go into Colossus really quickly, and I think he canceled the robotics bay, right?
I think he did. Like, this is the first game where he hasn't gone for that facility, or rather the robotics bay, yeah. Which it already shows that, you know, he's a bit like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to think about this game now. This isn't relying on instinct anymore. And honestly, that's where you don't want to be in StarCraft. He has practiced so much, but he has probably never been in this kind of situation before.
Well, he's going for some ferry damage on the main base. There's already a tank waiting, though. That's a lot of gateway units, so we can definitely pick up a little bit here before getting out of that tank range.
Nice positioning by DnS, though. He sees that ring for the tank range, and he's just staying out of it as much as possible, because any denial of mining at this point in time works out very well. Now, what is DnS's follow-up? He's getting charge, he's getting +1 armor, he's getting quite a few gateways and a Templar archive, so this feels... The fact that he's kind of foregoing getting an early third with this, it shows to me that he's very all in. He's going to hope to... In fact, he's getting a third now. This feels very messy, because having those 3 gateways so much earlier, it's almost like he wants HeRoMaRinE to scout the third and to kind of think he's just a little bit more behind than he is, but then kind of go for an all-in, catching him with charge lots in the middle of the map or something.
And some Archons as well, by the looks of things. Or maybe like quick Storm.
Storm, yeah. I mean, look at his gas bank here. He can whip out a lot of high Templars here.
Well, I mean, that is a scary army if he gets up there, and he does start Storm immediately. High Templar getting warped in. And HeRoMaRinE's just going normal affair here. Bio-production, all of his upgrades lining up. He's going for 1-1 this time, so his second engineering base a little bit quicker. It's Raven going for the main base. Looks like auto turret harassment potential here for HeRoMaRinE.
Which I think is pretty cute. I mean, this can get a lot of damage done.
Second auto turret, okay.
I was going to say only land 1 here. But, I mean, landing the second one, it also gets quite a few probes, so getting quite a bit of damage done. And this is all damage. This is all damage that he doesn't even need to do at this point in time, honestly.
It's just energy on his Raven. He doesn't care.
No, I mean, that Raven was kind of like a safety play to, like, stop maybe DTs, maybe interference matrix something, like a warp prism if needs be. But right now, he's 20 supply ahead, and the work account, he's ahead on that too. Even upgrades, he's going to be at 1-1 against just +1 of DnS, but DnS, he's doing the right thing here, actually. He's focusing on the armor upgrades. He's going to rely on the Storm to deal the damage, and also the charge upgrade itself.
As Marauders wanted to shoot that prism so bad, they took it out on the rocks instead.
Why can't I shoot up?
Where's my patch, Blizzard? So with that Storm nearly done here for DnS. And that's going to be a nice upgrade to have, because, I mean, HeRoMaRiNE's coming across the map right now, and he did warp in those High Templar earlier, so they each have a Storm available. This prism is sort of flying right past the third here of HeRoMaRiNE.
Behind enemy lines and into their face.
Yeah, I mean, it is still a thorn in his side, but it's kind of weird movement. Big drop in the main base here from HeRoMaRiNE. Not a whole lot in the main for DnS. A lot of his army's down by the third in the natural.
Oh, and that's 2 dead stalks as well. Denied mining, denied production as well. And these auto turrets deal a lot of damage and also tank a lot of shots. It feels like HeRoMaRiNE's just getting damage done, like, mercilessly in this game.
And he loses very little, does probe damage, trades well with the Protoss army. The High Templar also up here in the main base with the rest of his army there. Everything came for a ride. And HeRoMaRiNE's just like, you know what, I don't need to end it right now. I'll go home, get further ahead.
That's the thing, like, he doesn't actually need to make the moves right now. It's DnS that needs to get stuff done. He needs to either play really greedy economically or deal a lot of damage, because right now he's trailing. This Warp Prism, it's in sight of HeRoMaRiNE as well, so HeRoMaRiNE knows the potential of damage here. I was about to say, I wouldn't be surprised if he just makes a single Viking just to clean that out, and that's exactly what he does. He's getting Ghosts as well for the High Templars. That tech's been revealed. HeRoMaRiNE is the all-seeing eye at this point in time, and he knows exactly what he's up against, and he's amassing a great army. He's also got double engineering bait against a single forge, so eventually he's going to catch up in upgrades and super overtake his opponent too.
The Eye of Terran. He's got nothing that DnS can hide from him right now.
If there was an Eye of Terran, it would be the all-seeing Gabe.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, Prism softening up that War Prism there.
Was there an Observer there too, or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So the Prism just getting a little bit too deep. It's not really being a factor here, that Prism. It's kind of stuck. You can recall it, I guess, but saving that for later.
The thing is, it's not even super good with your army, because there's no big valuable units to super pick up, right? I mean, there are Immortals, but...
All right, well, both players passing each other like ships in the night. He scans the high ground, sees the movements of DnS. No ghosts in this army for HeRoMaRinE, so does need to take it a little bit carefully here.
Yeah, and the fact that he was stimming there to run at that army sort of, I was like, Gabe, I'm not sure. I'm a bit worried there. It's three full energy high Templars.
I know he's confident, but...
He's done a lot of really good moves, by the way, like leaving units in good places, like at his third there for the Warp Prism and stuff. Still got units there too, so very, very safe. Always scanning. The Liberators too, Maynard. This makes things so difficult because, I mean, there isn't a lot of anti-air here, and this is 4 Liberators at a time, going up to 8 barracks production as well. Is there a 4th CC? It is floating over as well, so everything going superbly for HeRoMaRinE. He's just in the flow right now. He is in the zone. The stage is where he belongs.
DnS needs a very good engagement against HeRoMaRinE, or maybe even getting another Prism across the map and somehow doing damage in the main base. Even though HeRoMaRinE does have some turrets, there's some openings where you can sometimes fly the Warp Prism in anyway, get a bunch of charge lots in the main base. He needs to try and frazzle HeRoMaRinE and get him off of this beat, because at the moment, everything's going off without a hitch for the German player, and that's when he's in his element. Scans up the front line there.
That is the most random force field of all time. I think he tried to blink forward, it was like, oh! But that just shows a little bit of nerves too, and I mean, his life is on the line here. Like, he's 2-1 down, and HeRoMaRiNE's been looking very good this game. Now, the thing is, he does have an ace card. He does have a lot of high Templars, and if he can get any storms, even though that was a dead high Templar, it did get something done, but also there was a lot of potential, right? Like, say if that Raven was too far forward or something like that, or any Ghost getting some feedbacks would be really, really cool, but Gabe's taking this very cool and methodically here.
Yeah, starting to use those Liberators to once again siege forward. EMP there, hitting the Archon Immortals and a bunch of Gateway units as well. Feedbacks there on the Raven and the Ghosts. And it looks like DnS decides the time is now. He's coming in with a nice big concave. Blinks forward. He is going to get rid of these Liberators. The Bio takes a massive storm. Great storm there from DnS. That's what he needed.
Where did that high Templar even come from? That was awesome.
This blink though.
That was a questionable blink. I mean, they are fragile units. They're not very stocky. And does he have any more storms? Nice EMP. It feels like DnS is kind of throwing half his army at him at a time here. Oh, huge counter flank at the top as well.
This is getting a little messy on both sides here. DnS still has some of these scary units alive. More storms available on the side Templar as well. The Bio getting kited back. There's one tank. Target firing down. That Colossus does not get it. These tier 3 units are still alive. Oh, they're Viking. One more shot just gets that Colossus in the end. Very dirty fight on both sides there. The DnS does hold.
Okay. Ooh, take a breath. Take a breath, because DnS is still in this. He's getting +3 armor now. He did get +1 damage throughout all of that too, and he is taking a 4th, so he's not dead yet. That was a pretty good fight by him, and those storms were legendary all over HeRoMaRiNE's army, but it's not over yet. HeRoMaRiNE, he's just getting started by the looks of it. 4 command centers on the way. Mad production as well. 5 Marauders at a time. Can also whip out a lot of Marines at a time. Vikings also. He's kind of assessed that, hey, I have enough anti-ground damage, but I really need to sort out this Colossus because they are causing me a lot of problems. The thing is, there's only 1 on the field right now. There is a second one being produced. But it's really those storms. Like, I feel HeRoMaRiNE needs to split up his army and go a bit loco here. He
might be expecting Tempests as a response to the Liberators.
That's true.
So getting Vikings at this point would certainly make it a little bit easier to deal with that. He's even making more starports here.
And the Fusion Core as well. This is just the next stage in the game, right? Get the Liberator range. Upon seeing this, though, when you see your opponents mining from that gold on that side, this feels so good as a Terran player. Like, you almost want that observer to stay alive just so he can witness you.
Yeah, look at me. Witness me.
This Warp Prism, he's got a job on his hands. He's got 4 Zealots and a Dream, but it's going to be tough to get stuff done because HeRoMaRiNE right now, he does have a superior upgrade advantage too. And once those Liberators hit +2, they do actually 2-shot Stalkers. So the situation isn't going to get a lot better for DnS, but he is opting for the Stargate tech now.
All these EMPs. Ghost at the front line here, lots of energy. Doesn't actually commit there.
Setting up his 5th, or rather, this is technically like his 6th base, I guess, but this Warp Prism, this is a scary move. This can get a lot of economic damage done if it's left untended.
All right, we got those Archons to the front line here. Ghost still waiting to pull the trigger there, those EMPs. Another lovely storm from DnS. He walks through it twice there. Another storm from DnS. That one not as great as the first, but still, he's pushing HeRoMaRiNE back. The air army of the Terran shows up, gets a storm off and some SCVs there as well, getting 8 of them. Nicely done by DnS.
So Gabe, he's assessing the situation yet again. That Warp Prism,
Vikings!
Oh, he
doesn't get it.
Wow, that was actually kind of crazy that he allowed that to kind of warp in there. But I mean, there's so much chaos going on around the map, and he really has to make sure that his main army doesn't die. So that's where his main focus was right there. But this bunker, nicely placed, and it's going to do its job here, clean up all those zealots.
Yeah, even saves the Viking in the end there. Landing does help out a little bit. That bunker gets surrounded and repaired from HeRoMaRinE. A lot more ghosts as well. There's plenty of energy on them. And there's the switch for DnS. He wants to start taking it to the skies. Fleet bacon sizzling in the pan. A second Stargate, so you start getting those tempests up.
This is one of the things, though, right? Like, DnS has been bruised and battered this whole game, but he's actually fighting back. He's getting himself into a decent position and making pretty good moves. Make no mistake about it, HeRoMaRinE's ahead, and he's really kind of clamping down on his opponent, but the larger this, or the more they both expand, it gets a little more difficult for the Terran player. So DnS, he's still holding on, he still has hope here. All it takes is one fight where you land a few storms for things to go really bad for your opponent.
I mean, it was all HeRoMaRinE until that wonderful storm there at the bottom of the map, so you're quite right in that regard. Blue State of Phoenix sees the movement here of the Terran. DnS knows exactly where HeRoMaRinE is. Looks like he moves to engage here.
It's very hard to engage a Protoss at this point in time, though. Like, that is a scary army. And the thing is, when you attack move as well, when you move into your opponent, your army tends to clump up so much. Look at this, by the way. This is macro mode galore. 3 more CCs.
How many command centers does he have?
He's already on 8 barracks too, right? Yeah, and I think he's adding down 3 more. So really going for that, I can remax just as quickly as you can kind of play style. But I mean, he is rich.
Yeah, you don't want to be sitting there with the bank for too long if you start to lose army supply, no matter what race you play.
Okay, so Gabe right now, he's got +2 Liberators. You don't really need +3 because you're already going to 2-shot Stalkers with them, which are going to be their primary target, actually, given that they're the only other unit that shoots up at you. Now he's opting for air upgrades, just to make his Liberators survive for a little longer.
These storms as a defense against that small group of bio, not too effective there. Loses 7 probes. DnS pushing HeRoMaRinE back from the middle of the map here, from this low ground. And Ghost being left behind.
Lib range is now finished. Now he can turn around and start fighting against his opponent. That's what he was really waiting for there. So that was very patient play by him.
Zoning back there with his Liberators. Oh, that range really is tricky for DnS until the Tempests start to hit the field in good numbers.
And they're already here, Maynard. I mean, there's only 1 on the field right now, producing 1 at a time too. Lots of gateways also bursting out onto the field for DnS. HeRoMaRinE, it feels like he's just kind of walking by this army, letting things happen. But what's his main objective here? It has to be going for those bottom right bases and really fighting the Protoss from one side and one side only. That's the strength of the Liberator.
So DnS deliberately throwing away some supply here so he does be able to get some more useful units in. Big recall there at this Nexus. Feedbacks on a lot of those Ghosts as well.
Those some sick feedbacks. He needs to remove those Liberators because they are out of position here.
Oh, DnS has got those Stalkers on the backside. We got a bunch of EMPs on them though. Reinforcement bio from HeRoMaRinE starting to cut through those Stalker numbers. Does he have enough to deal with the Colossi? So far, so good against the 2 of them. Big stalls from DnS, pushes HeRoMaRinE back again. Same battlefield, and once again, DnS holds, this time a lot more one-sidedly.
Yeah, DnS, that was a clutch move with that recall. He came in from a totally different angle and really bamboozled HeRoMaRinE. The thing is, HeRoMaRinE has been rich for a long time, and he has so much production. He's making 3 Marauders, 4 Ghosts, 8 Marines, and 5 Vikings at a time. He just needs time right now. That's what he really needs. And DnS, he's not really giving it him. Although he does move back a little bit, doesn't really want to be fighting into that PF.
Looks like these High Templar are a little bit low on energy. One of them does have enough for a storm. Scans from EMP, scans from HeRoMaRinE rather. See if he can EMP something. Taking 7 Ghosts at a time here. There's so many Ghosts. All right, he does want to engage the Planetary after all. HeRoMaRinE starting to respect it now, going for repairs, but can he keep it alive? A lot of damage here for this Protoss army.
Will the PS stay alive? That's the real question. And yes, it does stay alive.
Wow.
Skin of its
EMPs
teeth right there.
Everywhere. Big storms as well, hitting the Vikings and the bio. HeRoMaRinE and DnS taking a bit of damage. The Protoss still threatening though.
The main thing about this is HeRoMaRiNE's been mining way more during all of this. He has so many orbital commands, and you can see, even though DnS is doing catastrophic damage to HeRoMaRiNE, HeRoMaRiNE is still playing the RTS better because he's mining so much more. Look at that income advantage throughout this entire game here.
Some dips in the mid-game, some dips just towards the end there, but he's starting to really show the power of all that macro here. The Mule's hitting the field.
Look at how many scans went down as well just then.
Yeah, it's got orbitals for days. Those High Templar are very vulnerable. Go for the snipes instead of EMPs. Try and take them out of the equation permanently.
That's also a real amount of Ghosts in his army too. How many does he have in the field?
He was making 7 at once at one point. So he really wanted a good number of Ghosts to replenish very fast.
And they do really good damage against the Zealots too. Given that they do bonus damage to light armor, so those Zealots, they melt to this kind of army. Still, though, this is very awkward to fight in. I love the way that he uses Liberators, the backdoor entrance, and also the forward entrance, just piling pressure on his opponent here. And this gets gnarly. Blinks into the Liberators here, and only goes from one side.
This looks like it might be a right for Gabe if he doesn't get stormed on again. And actually, there's not that many storms connecting with the Bio. He does hit the Vikings a little bit, but still so much Bio remaining. Nice Zealot counterattack here, very, very cheap for DnS. He's losing these Stalkers on the front line. These Liberators get so scary if that happens. EMP once again on the Terran army, but it doesn't look like he cares. HeRoMaRinE committing here, going forward with all of his air units and the Bio as well. Everything's being EMP for the Protoss army. 3 Stalkers and 1 High Templar and 1 Colossus.
Big Gabe is doing it. DNS's final stand, the final storm goes down, trying to hold on as good as he can, but even the Nexus is falling at this point in time. Look at the production tab as well in this game.
15 Marauders, 7 Ghosts.
HeRoMaRinE is just producing like a madman during all of this. Macro, I will teach you how to macro, says HeRoMaRinE, and just a huge flood of units coming across the map as well. Honestly, so many orbitals, so many mules. Such good play by HeRoMaRinE, and DNS, he is mortally wounded at this point.
I mean, there isn't a comeback here. I want to say that DNS has something up his sleeve, but he is down 80 army supply right now. The Terran just needs to send everything together across the map. I mean, maybe HeRoMaRinE sits still for way too long, but I still think that's clutching at straws.
9 SCVs at the time. Can we have a quick look at the income tab as well here? Because I think 4,000 minerals per minute, Maynard. That is an insane number. HeRoMaRinE played a really darn good macro TVP. This wasn't normal. TVP often relies or revolves around a lot of 2-base all-ins, but HeRoMaRinE showed us that you can also play a pretty darn solid macro game if you do so, please. Great storms, though!
But does it matter? The answer is nope, not anymore. GG! HeRoMaRinE gets a 3-1 victory on stage. And once again excuses DNS from a WCS bracket tournament.
I gotta tell you though, that was a series and a half. DNS looked super solid in the first game, but then Gabe just showed us, and he showed us that he learned from his opponent. He really did. He started mixing up a lot of builds, started being like, okay, I know you're good and solid, so you'll expect me to do what everybody should do in this kind of situation, but man, he just showcased a real strong TVP against DNS there, and it's no wonder he felt so confident beforehand.
What a great series, and let's go for an interview with our winner, HeRoMaRinE and Smix on the stage.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, HeRoMaRinE. You're moving forward at this tournament. And, you know, prior to this series, did you feel pretty comfortable headed in, knowing that the history between you two, I mean, you had already eliminated DNS twice before at WCS events, so did that make you feel a lot more comfortable?
Yeah, in general, I feel comfortable against DNS because I know his playstyle very well, and I think mine is kind of good against it. And also, coming into this tournament, I felt like my TVP was pretty okay. So I'm not really scared of any TVP besides Showtime. So yeah, any Protoss was fine for me.
Well, you definitely showcased your skill in this series. I want to ask about map number 2, as you started out with 2 proxy racks, but then you lost your STVs pretty early on, and normally that would be pretty devastating. So what went through your head at that moment?
I kind of messed up my STV control. I was trying to be greedy, doing as much damage as possible on that one probe, but that was unnecessary. He also did a lot of mistakes there, and I also did a lot of mistakes. That was a very messy game. But in the end, I think I got lucky because I didn't really know what I was doing in that situation, and it kind of worked out because he made too many shield batteries, so we both didn't really play that well, I think, in that game.
And I also want to ask about this final game because it turned into a super scrappy game after a really great start from you as he started to land a lot of great storms. So did you feel confident that your macro would still pull you through to the end, or did you have any worries there?
I felt like I was very far ahead, but the problem is at one point in the game, or rather at the first big fight, the main issue was I still had a Raven and Ghost, and that means that the Raven overrides the control group, and I couldn't use my Ghost properly, and then I lost the Raven, and then I tapped in order to EMP, but then I stimmed, and it was all a mess, and then I thought about it. Okay, I have a Raven in control group, and then after I lost the Raven, I never had it anymore, and then I just continued to mess up the control group stuff.
Well, of course, with this win, now you are moving forward, and your next opponent is going to be Rainer, who you actually have a really, really good match history against. The last time you played him was in the WCS Winter Group, where you defeated him 2-0. So despite the fact that a lot of eyes have been on him, I can't help but feel like you must be pretty confident.
Yeah, I feel good against Rainer. I think anyone in Europe is besides Cyril on a very similar level. So yeah, anyone can win against anyone, and I feel particularly good against Reina too. But I mean, he's still very good, and I think it will be an even match. I don't know who's gonna win. We'll see.
We'll see indeed, but congratulations again, Big Gabe, on moving forward. Kalaris, back to you guys.
That's right, WCS Spring, Big Gabe, the kingpin of Meltdown in Cologne, is able to take the victory there in 3-1 fashion. Good stuff by HeRoMaRinE. Of course, he'll be moving on to play against Reina. Joining me, I have Pig and Todd here to break things down from that series, as well as maybe look at some of the other action that was going on there through the round of 24 as we continue on. And obviously, a big win there for HeRoMaRinE to be able to move on into the round of 16. Once again, strong stuff.
Yeah, it was really nice to see. I mean, HeRoMaRinE, we always expect to go through. He was the favorite in that match, and I like the mix-up of the openings as well. The last game, coming in with the Hellion drop into the main, the Hellions and the Reapers diving into the natural. We had Widowmine drops, just a good rotation of openings, adjusted to the maps. Little beautiful moves like that. It's those details. Shutting down DNS's vision. You know, he played Observer Hunter in map 1, which is always a good thing to do.
I mean, it was a common theme throughout the hit series as a whole. Very keen on being able to shut that down.
Yeah, really good interference matrices. I actually felt like this game, you know, was going to be HeRoMaRinE's, but DNS came out swinging, looked really good. The player who, for a long time, you know, we used to talk about nerves with DNS and his inability to perform on the big stage. I feel like he's just gotten over that. You know, he might have lost this series, but it's HeRoMaRinE he was playing against. I think DNS is so much more stable at bringing his A game on the big stage. We could see him taking many fantastic engagements throughout this series. And yeah, just really nice play throughout.
I feel like all these Colossi, when they get interference matrix, think that they're in an episode of Black Mirror. All of a sudden, they're just like, what's happening? Poor Colossi. They're truly the victim of this matchup throughout the series.
Yeah, I mean, that's the power of interference matrix. You know, it's like, it's kind of like when you Blinding Cloud Bio and they try to run into like the Lingbane up to them. You know, it's like they start trying to play tag with the enemy melee units. It's not a good idea. I love, you know, this little bunker rush proxy barrack stuff that we're seeing coming out multiple series on Port Alexander now. So cool to see this opening from HeRoMaRinE, just throwing DNS into a bit of a hard spot. Followed up with a beautiful Viking timing. Focus down the Colossus and just some very nice Marine Marauder control, negating the disruptor shots on the ground.
I feel like stylistically, HeRoMaRinE matches up very well with DNS, because DNS, like I said, you know, is that guy that likes to, you know, go into Colossus, take a second, third base, maybe fourth base. And HeRoMaRinE, he embraces that. He was one of those, you know, triple command center biggest fans. He likes to expand, he likes to build big army, and he's very good at managing those. So I feel like it kind of played in his favor, because he was maybe like, you know, a level or two above what DNS was capable of doing here in this series. And HeRoMaRinE just looked really good, I thought, in this one. Yeah, DNS, like, I feel like DNS played pretty damn well himself.
It was good play, wasn't it? It's just, I feel like HeRoMaRinE's specialty, I used to kind of think of him as a bit of a standard Terran and nothing stood out, except he just had good builds, good solid play. I feel like these days when I look at HeRoMaRinE's play, his special superpower is his army control, his ability to control late game armies using things like Vikings, Libs, Siege Tanks, all in conjunction. Just the handling of his engagements is one of the absolute best in the world. Obviously, very important as Terran to handle your engagements correctly, but we saw in that last game, you know, tons of great Viking Lib. We saw just great Raven usage throughout multiple games in this series, and I just feel like he's more confident than any other Terran player at going to the late game. A lot of other Terrans like, I gotta win now, I gotta use my advantage, I don't want to go up to that stage. And HeRoMaRinE is very comfortable plonking down a fourth base, getting his Lib range, adding his Ghost, getting this super complicated army, and using it very, very well.
Well, it looks spectacularly strong in this match. Of course, there were a few storms that landed, a couple of big storms that landed, but as long as, you know, Big Gabe was able to retreat out and make sure he could kind of solidify himself once again, he was able to win out some of those fights.
Big games, Big Gabe, big storms, big hype. Tripping over my own words there. I'm so excited when I see HeRoMaRinE play. But yeah, it was kind of good to see DNS almost drag this one back, because he was quite behind earlier on. He made it very close there. But HeRoMaRinE had so many command centers going down behind it, tons of macro. He kept utilizing this gold base. and just really good lib placement. Great bio spreads. The Ghosts were relentless with their EMPs. Just commanding TVP play from HeRoMaRinE. Very impressive.
And again, about that vision control game that we saw throughout the series as a whole, constantly throughout this game in particular, you saw HeRoMaRinE constantly scanning to see if there was an observer near his army, even with his opponent's army. He just completed Cloak with his Ghost. So if he'd have found an opportunity, there was always potential that he like strikes out at his opponent with no vision if that's to come along.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think Protoss players, if you let them see everything, choose their engagements, choose their tech, choose their timings, they can look insurmountable. This was a great position HeRoMaRinE got in this last fight. I would have loved to see DnS give up this base and actually just try to take the gold. But, you know, after that fight, he was down 60, 70, 80 supply. And HeRoMaRinE just launched his way to victory, overwhelming macro.
Hey, you know, you're done as a Terran when, done as a Protoss when the Terran just decides to walk straight through your storms and kill off the rest of your composition. And that means now HeRoMaRinE finds himself against Reyna down at the bottom of the bracket in the round of 16.